Welcome everyone. Abdul Rashid Jahaya here, esports entrepreneur, philanthropist, instructor, and content creator. And welcome to another episode of Esports Academy, proudly brought to you by the Mid-Continent Public Library, Level Up Arena, Unified, and the Varsity Esports Foundation. Today's episode is advocating for esports. And to get that accomplished, I brought a good friend of mine, Coach Connor Alney. Connor, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself and tell our viewers today a little more about yourself.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Like you said, my name is Connor Alney. I am the commissioner for the High School Esports League. I've been working in esports, it's been about 8 years now. I was originally a Call of Duty player. I love Call of Duty. I played game battles, traveled to MLG events, rest in peace. And just had a good time in esports. And in 2013, while I was in college, got really excited about the direction it was headed. I went out and I started hosting my own tournaments is how I got started. A lot of us did. Ran tournaments for a few years at different colleges across the country. Ended up opening up a training facility for esports for a year where I got to work hand in hand with teams. League of Legends, Overwatch were the two big ones. Worked up to college esports, was a college coach for a little while. That's where my name Coach Alney comes from. I loved coaching. It was really fun. I spent a little time coaching, eventually became executive director of a program. We built a 200-person spectator arena here in Kansas for esports. We actually took an old auditorium that was covered in dust and dirt, hadn't been used in like 40 years, and we put a bunch of lights and fog machines, and now it's for varsity esports, which is really cool.
Love it.
But I really fell in love with high school esports. I was a content creator myself, a self-proclaimed washed-up TikToker here. I was making content for a long time, and I happened to post a video about the High School Esports League and about how cool high school offering esports was, and that kind of became my journey then. I joined the team at the High School Esports League 2 years ago, and now I get to serve as the commissioner for the league. So,
Love it.
There's the story.
Cool. Super accolade, super important guy. Done a lot of amazing things here in the Midwest as well as across the nation. But before we get into our lesson about advocating for esports, we got to give our students their homework assignment today.
Yes, we have a homework assignment. So here's the thing. I was a business major in school, and what we used to always do is elevator pitches. So what an elevator pitch is, if you don't know, is imagine you're getting into a really tall building and you're getting into the elevator with one person. So we're getting into the elevator. I have until we reach the top of the elevator to convince you of something. So it's about 60 seconds. So your job today is to come up with an elevator pitch for esports, and in particular, advocating for esports. So if you know nothing about esports, how in 60 seconds can I convince you esports is a good thing and why you should be involved in it?
Love it. So we're going to circle back around to that question. So while you guys have a chance, go ahead and grab your notebooks, open up your Word document, or open up your Google document as well. And I'm going to have you start working on your elevator pitch. Connor is going to go through a lot of great information on how you can advocate for esports, the importance of advocating for esports, and the reason why we actually do this. So I don't want to spend too much time talking, because I'm sure you guys would rather hear from this very knowledgeable, very successful individual in the esports space. I'm going to make sure he tells you about all the cool things and things that he's accomplished. So listen up.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm so excited. Advocating for esports is such an important topic, too, because it doesn't get a lot of attention. It's not as fun as the pro players and the lights and the stage and stuff. But what we all have to keep in mind is esports is still a very new thing. It's still very early on, which means you're going to run into a lot of people who have no clue about esports. And so the better you can advocate for esports, both in your local community and also online, the more you're going to be able to help us all work together to developing the scene and bringing esports more into the mainstream, which is an exciting opportunity for all of us. So I'm really excited to get into this.
Love it. So, in a previous lesson, we asked our viewers, who has ever heard the timeless question, why do you spend so much time playing these video games? And we've come to find that most of the time it comes from our parents or our guardians or our friends who just don't understand why we spend so much time playing these games. It seems like we come from a very similar background. I played Call of Duty all throughout college and competed all throughout my professional life as well, which led me into hosting tournaments as well. I'm sure we've probably spent the same amount of time competing as well as probably now still running through different seasons as well as different versions that come out every winter of Call of Duty. But I'm sure people have asked you that many times, and I'm sure they've been asked that as well. Could you give from your perspective why you spend so many hours playing video games?
Yeah, video games always have a special place in my heart. I grew up a military brat, so I grew up traveling around every couple of years, which meant making new friends and never really having a steady place that you belonged. And so for me, a lot growing up was turning to video games. It was a place that could be consistent no matter where I lived or what was going on in my life. I could log in and play and be able to have a good time. And then as I got older, it was a way to connect with old friends. It was a way to be able to, take time away from whatever my day to day is and get to hang out with friends who I no longer live nearby and hang out. So for me, it was always a really special thing that provided me a sense of normalcy in my life, no matter what was going on. And then as I got into high school and got a little bit older, that's when competitive really took over. I've always been a very competitive person. I did traditional sports. I was a wrestler. But I found esports to be a little bit more exciting for some reason. I found that when I got to play online with my friends and get to play in online tournaments and just that atmosphere, I would get the same excitement that I would, walking onto the wrestling mat as I would at home. But it was so much more accessible to me. I could play tournaments all weekend long if I wanted to, or I could play in competitive matches. And so for me, it became a really strong outlet for my competitive side as well as mixing with old friends and new friends.
Yeah, love it. So you've accomplished some amazing things in your career, from helping to build out an esports facility, as well as now you're the commissioner for Generation Esports High School Esports leagues. Could you give our viewers a little background of what that role takes, and we'd love to find out the importance of it.
Yeah, appreciate that. So, the High School Esports League is an amazing league. So, my role as commissioner is relatively simple on paper. I run the league. So, our high school league is partnered with about 5,000 high schools across the country, and so my job is to oversee that league from both a competitive integrity standpoint and an outreach standpoint. So. We run a lot of different tournaments, a lot of different competitions, and rules can get broken, things can happen, and they need someone there to make the final decision. And so that gets to be me, which sometimes isn't so fun. But ultimately, competitive integrity is really important to make sure a league is legitimate, to make sure that you can treat this just as serious as any other sport or activity. So that's a very serious part of my job. The more fun part is actually advocating for esports. This is a big part of my job. I get to travel around the country talking and meeting with schools and districts and different people to be able to talk about esports and the benefits we're seeing of adding esports into high schools.
Yeah.
That's a really big part of my job. Creating content and reaching out through social media to educate people is another big one. And ultimately just making sure that the league is headed in the right direction, that we're doing our job, putting out the proper materials, and encouraging people to be able to start high school esports programs. So that's a really big part of it. Generation Esports is an amazing company. We run middle school, high school, and college esports now, so we span the whole entire ecosystem to be able to get involved in esports. So it's an incredible opportunity to get to work for them and to be able to run their largest league, the High School Esports League.
Awesome. Yeah. So our viewers, our students, they span a wide variety of ages, as well as different being in different parts of their lives. So I know that question of why do you spend so much time playing these video games, as well as why is it important to advocate for esports, comes from a lot of different directions. So I got a couple questions. They're going to be pretty simple or pretty similar, but I want to give our viewers some feedback so that when they do get to ask that question, they can advocate for themselves, which in return advocates for esports. So for our youth out there who are still home with their parents and guardians, and they get asked that question, why do you spend so many hours playing these video games? How could you recommend they answer that question so that they can continue pouring in the necessary hours in moderation to pour into their passions?
Yeah, that's a great question. So there's a couple things to understand when you're talking about esports, and in particular, if you're trying to get like an esports program in your school or do organized esports. The first is we're very inclined to talk about video games, a lot about video games, but the people who don't understand esports aren't the kind of people who also maybe understand much about video games. And so my number one recommendation is you want to stay off video games, honestly, as long as possible, and understanding that esports in particular is obviously derived from video games. You play video games the whole time. But the thing to understand about esports is you're not necessarily encouraging kids to play more video games. What you're actually doing is just providing a more structured environment for those kids to be able to play in a competitive sport just like anything else. And so it's about what you're doing with the time. Everyone has time that they spend on entertainment, whether it's playing video games, watching TV, scrolling on social media. Everyone has their ways to de-stress and to hang out and kill time. And so presenting it in a way that, hey, we all do this. We're all playing video games. We all spend time. But I really am interested in esports, and what esports can do for me is it allows me to connect with a bunch of other people who are really passionate about this, and it takes my time from just going from maybe mindless entertainment to actually being a structured activity where I get to learn that. I get to develop friendships with people from potentially across the country. I get to learn about leadership and teamwork and ultimately work towards a common goal, which is a very fun thing to be able to do. When you're on a team, that team environment is it's just a fun thing for us to be able to work together to try to win a championship or to work towards winning our first GB or whatever it is. So understanding that talking more about video games isn't necessarily the way to go. What you're doing is structuring the time that you are spending away from class in a more structured environment.
Awesome. Well, speaking of class, that offers a great segue to my follow-up question. For our students out there who have ascended to the post-secondary education college ranks, who either want to develop a structured program or already evolved in a structured program, who need to advocate for esports as well, when they're trying to balance their time, their studies, and their practice time, they're likely going to be asked that same questions from their parents or from their instructors. Hey, if you're struggling in your academics, they're going to ask, why you spend so much time playing these video games? Do you have a suggestion of how they could respond as well?
Yeah, the power of adding esports into a high school or middle school is truly incredible, and I think it's one of the greatest ways to advocate for esports is actually joining a team at your school. So one of the best ways to talk about that is, look, we're all already playing video games, right? What adding esports into your high school can do is, one, it takes that time that you're playing video games and it brings you back into the classroom, into the school to be able to play them in a structured environment. But then two, what it allows you to do is it can actually work as a motivational tool to get excited about school again. We do this the same with traditional sports. Maybe some kids aren't really excited about school, but they want to play basketball, they want to play baseball, whatever they want. So they have to keep their grades up and they have to go to school, and then they put up with that to make sure that they get to do their activity. Esports is exactly the same. Most of our schools, we always encourage, and most of the schools have a GPA requirement so that if you want to play on the esports team, you have to keep your grades up, you have to be passing, you have to turn in your homework. And what we find is paired with educational offerings like this, attendance goes up by 10%. GPAs can rise over 1 point over the course of a year to be able to get kids excited about going to school. And I think that's a really important piece. And maybe if you're watching this, getting excited about school, it might not sound like the most important thing to you, but I promise to the parents and teachers and people who you're trying to advocate for, they really care about that. Your education is very important. So if you can pitch esports as a way to improve your education, which it truly is, it's proven, I think that's going to be your best way to open up those conversations. And then that opens up the whole new world of opportunities of esports that we can get into now if you want, around scholarships to go to college and the opportunity for students to go down this pipeline of college opportunities, college careers, and basically getting excited about your future and excited about what opportunities are there. Without that and just playing, with people pushing you away from video games, you're potentially pushing away the biggest motivator in your life, and that's really unfortunate.
Yeah. So this is a great point that you're alluding to. We're gonna step back and I'm gonna remind you guys about your homework assignment for today. So what Connor asked you to work on is creating a elevator pitch of how you can advocate for esports. This is something that's going to be very important to you because whether you are in high school and you're trying to petition for your parents to allow you to be on an esports team or join an esports organization, or you're trying to convince your faculty and staff members to help you build out a program at your school, you're going to need to be able to actually pitch this to them. Or if you're in your post-secondary education and you're trying to create a JV team, create a team that's recognized by your school, or join a varsity team, or get additional resources or opportunities for your college team, you're also going to need to be able to pitch these ideas to your instructors, your coaches, your faculty and staff members, individuals who are signing off on those opportunities that you have. And then even after college, when you're in a space like us, in the esports professional realm, where you're not competing in everyday games, but you're actually working in a professional space. All of us at some point are creating some sort of pitch uh, to advocate to provide opportunities. Just like this class that was brought to you today, proudly by the Mid County Public Library, Level Up Arena Unified, and the Varsity Esports Foundation. At one point, it's my job to go through the individuals and pitch and say, hey, this is the importance of the information that I'd like to bring to our communities and be able to introduce them to individuals like yourself. So at some point, no matter what level you are in your um, professional career, whether that is on the competition side or on the professional individual side, you're going to have to pitch an idea. And we want to give you guys as much practice as we possibly can because we want you to be successful in obtaining the things and the opportunities that you look for. So that's why that made today's homework assignment. But even past those opportunities, I want to talk about the scholarship opportunities.
Yeah.
College was extremely expensive for me, and I wish that I could have wrote an esports scholarship. But these are newer. It's been a couple
Yeah.
years since I've been out of college. But if you could speak to scholarship opportunities that can come directly from being involved in these type of activities.
Yeah, scholarship opportunities is an incredible opportunity right now for anyone who is in high school trying to go to college. Basically, what we're seeing is a huge shift of colleges who are now offering scholarships either through the athletics or academic fields to be able to join their college and to be part of their esports team while you get your education. So basically, what you do is you get to go to college, and just like any other after school activity or any other sport, you get to join their, let's say, esports team. So they'll build a LAN center at their college. You'll get to spend hours practicing with your team, competing, sometimes traveling the country, getting to play esports, all while that time is earning you a scholarship. A lot of the times we're seeing 50, 60, 70% discounts off of tuition for college scholarships. And for the best players out there, we actually see full ride scholarships for esports now. So if you're a very talented individual, you can actually go to college for free just for playing on their esports team. But even if you're just an average player who's just excited about esports, there's still a 50% off, scholarship out there for you in esports, just because so many colleges are new to esports. They're excited about it. They're trying to grow their programs. So if you're just an excited individual who really wants to join an esports program, whether it's as a player or you can join these programs for broadcasting, social media, all these different fields, they're looking for just passionate kids who want to help grow esports. And on top of that, now you're getting to go to college. You're getting to potentially get 50, 60, 70% off to go to college, and you're building a real resume for your future, whether you want to work in esports, whether you want to go pro, or whether you just want to get your degree cheaper and you get, business, engineering, science, and go on to have your career. It can all be made possible and affordable because of esports now, which is incredible.
Love it. So for our students, a reason why I wanted Mr. Allen needed to join us in class today because the synergy between our two organizations that we represent. So for him, representing Generation Esports and the High School Esports League, as well as myself with representing Unified, we collectively bring a very unique opportunity for players at whatever space you're in. So whether you're in high school or college, both of us have offerings. So Generation Esports has endless opportunities for high school students, college students to compete. During school, after school, and year round. But also, if you're not in school, my organization, Unified, has plenty of opportunities that span across the nation for you to play in live events where you have access to tens of 20s of competitions to earn prestige, honor, as well as money and cash prizes. So we bring together individuals like ourselves and say, hey, the opportunities are all around you. No matter what space or what age you are in life or where you're at, there are opportunities that are online as well as on site at live events. So if you could speak to, if you can make any recommendations on how our students can get more involved in building their confidence and trying out competitions, whether it is in high school or in the general public.
Yeah, I think people get sometimes intimidated by esports, thinking you have to be like a really good player to try to compete in a tournament. And you just got to remember that everyone starts somewhere, and everyone begins at the same level. And getting involved in tournaments and getting to compete in esports is going to be the best way to not only grow as a player, but also just decide, what it is you like about this industry and be able to connect with other people who are passionate about it. So the number one recommendation is always check out your local scene. If you guys have any sort of esports arena, LAN center, anyone that's just getting together and hosting esports events, I promise it's worth checking out. Go out, hang out, enter and compete. Even if you don't think you're going to win, it's just a really amazing experience to be able to actually start learning and growing within the scene.
Yeah.
That's always going to be step one. Step two is obviously online. There's a bunch of opportunities to be able to enter into tournaments and find discords with other people who are either trying to get in the competitive scene or just casual gaming and getting to hang out, 5 stacks in Valorant and have a good time. That's all really important. If you are in middle school or high school, like you said, we do have a middle school and a high school esports league. I might be a little biased, but I think they're incredible opportunities for you to really get involved. Our high school esports league has the ability, we run all the major titles. You can actually start a program for free, get it up and running. You can play from home if your school doesn't have the equipment. But what we do is help organize it so that your school can compete against other schools all across the country so that you can get experience in esports, start learning and developing as a player, and ultimately you get a lot more opportunities. We're giving away $150,000 in scholarships this year for teams who are competing. You get to compete live on a stage in Texas for our finals. That's all an amazing opportunity for you. We connect you with hundreds of college coaches. If you're trying to get one of those college scholarships, we'll actually make that process a whole lot easier for you. And we'll help get you in front of as many coaches as we can to help you get recruited and get your college hopefully paid for so that you can, go for free, get your college education and play esports. Like that's the dream. But getting involved some way is also going to be back to the advocacy part. If you're getting a lot of pushback from parents or peers about your gaming habits, getting involved with esports is going to make that a lot easier, because now instead of you just playing by yourself at home, you're getting to actually play on a team. And so that's going to be a support group for you no matter what. You're getting to actually meet a lot new, friends and potential, really close friends through this activity. And you might not meet them unless if you show up to the LAN center on the weekend and go compete in a tournament that you get absolutely stomped in. We've all been there, and it's an important first step in getting involved in this. So if you're passionate about it, you got to get out there, enter some tournaments, and meet some people.
Well, Connor, you've been great. I'm really honored to have you on this episode of Esports Academy to help our students advocate for esports and being a consistent advocate for esports. The industry is a better place with you. I appreciate you, and I'm sure the students do as well. We're going to wrap this up. Again, thank you to our sponsors, the Mid-Continent Public Library, Level Up Arena, Unified, and the Varsity Esports Foundation, as well as Generation Esports for helping shape individuals like you and giving you opportunities to continue to grow and sustain the integrity of the industry. We appreciate them and all the work that your team does. Students, that is the end of today's lesson, and we look forward to seeing your responses on your homework assignment.
Do your homework.
Right, do your homework. Have a great evening, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.